So in the Yu-Gi-Oh TCG, there has been a plethora of quality control issues that resulted in iconic misprints. Although a lot of these misprints come off as hollow foil shift errors, some paint blotches, as well as some literally completely off-center cards, most of these scenarios I just mentioned are one-offs. What I wanted to cover in this video is recurring misprints. Misprints that we see over and over again repetitively on the same card. I think these are the best type of misprints, as it's not just a free-for-all and it's not like where just the buyer or the seller have to come to an agreement. You can actually track a market price for them simply because there are many of them that appear on the market and you can have at least some data points to go off of. I think the market price for those is a lot more stable and fluctuates a lot less just because they are not one of ones. So in today's video, we're going to be covering all of the repetitive misprints that happened in the old school era up until now, and I'm going to try to give you a glimpse of just how rare some of them can get. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so before we start, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, aka yours truly. Hit the like button and subscribe, and you can also support yourself by shopping at strictlysealedinc for your accessories to bling out your collection. I have some of the highest quality stuff on there, so I think you guys would really benefit because you'd not only be supporting me, you'd be supporting yourself. And if you want to support me further, I have a Patreon. For $5 a month, you get exclusive access to some channels in our Discord that allows you to see future products that I'm making, as well as weekly sales data from all the platforms online. It's a really good tool for you guys to be able to keep up with the market, and for $5 a month, in my opinion, it's a no-brainer. But yeah, that aside, let's get into the video. So before I start listing these, I want to give some criteria on how I selected these misprints. First of all, these are all English misprints. There is a ton of misprints that happen on the EU as well as in Japan, so I'm not going to be covering those. I'm going to focus on my expertise, which is North American TCG. The second thing is, again, like I said earlier, they have to have more than one copy in existence. It can be as few as 2, but we need at least more than one of one. And then finally, this list is not in any real specific order. It's really hard to rank the rarities of these things, so it's just very difficult. I think some of them are cooler than others because of just the nature of the misprint itself, and you guys will see what I mean as we get into it. But yeah, that aside, let's get into some honorable mentions that I want to talk about. The first one is the Gate Guardian as well as Thousand Dragon reverse foil name misprints. So these cards have the wrong name on them. Thousand Dragon is misprinted with Guy the Dragon Champion, and Gate Guardian is misprinted with Trihorn Dragon. I covered these in their own video. You can check it out here. The reason that these cards are honorable mentions and not on the list is because they're not official cards. You can't get them from the pack. They are from an uncut sheet, but again, I covered it in a lot more depth in that video. The second honorable mention I want to talk about is the misprinted Dark Paladin error art, as well as the Ocean Dragon Lord Neo Daedalus. So the reason that these two are honorable mentions is because every single copy that was released is like this. However, you are able to get the correct version or the original Konami intended version by mailing out your misprint to Konami, and they would mail you a corrected one in return. Instead of using the corrected Dark Paladin artwork, it uses the Dark Paladin from Duel Master's Guide, which was intended to be a promo artwork only. And then for Neo Daedalus, what they did was the text box was missing some criteria for summoning. They ended up mailing out the corrected version of that card when you mailed in the incorrect one. One cool Easter egg about the Neo Daedalus, however, is that I suspect that Canadian structure decks that had the Neo Daedalus are ones that actually see the corrected text box right out of the box. I don't believe the North American ones did that. And the reason that I think this is because every single corrected text Neo Daedalus that I saw on eBay or any other sales platform is usually outside of the US. It's usually in Canada or on the European side. But that's just speculation, and I wanted to add that in there just in case somebody else can verify this information. However, in the case of the Dark Paladin, there are no corrected art Dark Paladins that can be had from the booster boxes. It has never ever happened. I don't believe it ever will be. So the number of Dark Paladins in existence is what we have today, and we will never get more of those. Alright, but those are the honorable mentions. Let's get into number 1 on this list, and that is the Cyber End Dragon structure deck. This is actually a fairly modern misprint. So the recently released Cyber Strike structure deck has had a chance where you can pull a misprinted Cyber End Dragon as well as Cyber Dark End Dragon. Both of these cards had like paint issue, I guess, something like that. There was something wrong with the card artwork where you'd see like these blue hues embedded into the art. It only affected those two cards. Like, it's not a crazy misprint by any means, and it's definitely one of the lower end ones, but I do think that it is worth noting as it reoccurs multiple times, and you can find them on eBay for around like 20-30 bucks, something like that. Very, very cheap, very cool. The reason that I included this is because it targets iconic monsters like Cyber End Dragon. We don't really have a misprint for that card, so I think that's pretty cool and it's worth mentioning. The next misprint that I want to talk about is Shadow of Infinity first edition cards having silver Eye of Anubises at the bottom right. So usually having first edition stamp as well as limited edition stamp on your card pretty much guarantees a gold Eye of Anubis. However, there is a short print run that was released in Europe where first edition cards from Shadow of Infinity had silver stamps. A lot of people assume that these are fakes, however they are not, and we have seen them get pulled from first edition booster boxes. This misprint doesn't have that much of a premium compared to the gold Eye of Anubis, so whatever the card is, by the way, this affects like pretty much every ultimate rare in Shadow of Infinity, so whatever card that you are looking for in gold Eye of Anubis form, you'll be able to find it in silver Eye of Anubis form without much of a premium at all. One card that stands out though is Uriah. A lot of people really like that card in ultimate rare, so sometimes you might see that the gold Eye of Anubis might hold a bigger premium. Sometimes you'll find that the silver Eye of Anubis holds a bigger premium. Misprint collectors be crazy like that. The next error that I want to talk about is very similar to the old one, however it's the other way around. So Duelist League cards, Duelist League 1 specifically, had a bunch of cards that were released originally like a silver stamp, and then there's a misprinted gold stamp. Obviously the gold stamp is a misprint because there is no first edition or limited edition on the Duelist League cards. But again, these ones you're not gonna really get a premium unless there's a person who collects like the archetype itself. So like for example, we have somebody in our Discord that buys Buster Blader products as well as cards, and he is willing to pay a huge premium for gold Eye of Anubis Buster Bladers. But it's a very, very minor misprint. A lot of people will miss it. The next misprint I want to talk about is reverse foils. I covered these in a ton of depth in this video here. That is like the ultimate resource for reverse foil cards, so I highly recommend you check that out. But this pretty much affected the first run of booster pack tins from 2002, Legend of Blue Eyes up until Labyrinth of Nightmare secret rare cards, as well as some Asian English cards. This reverse foil misprint targets so many different cards from so many different sets that the range in premium is actually quite substantial. It can go from almost zero premium, like things like Gaia the Dragon Champion reverse foil doesn't have any sort of premium over the regular Gaia the Dragon Champion, to things like the Gate Guardian where it can literally 10x the price from an unlimited Gate Guardian that is not reverse foil. So for that one, and to get a lot more in-depth detail, I highly recommend you check out that video that I just mentioned. The next misprint I want to talk about is called the CT super rare or ultra rare misprints. So CT1, which is the first run of collector tins, this is the third wave of tins that came out in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. So we had BPT1, BPT2, which is 2002, 2003, and then we had CT1, which is 2004. This specific run of tins had a small run of misprinted cards where instead of having the regular secret rare foiling, they were misprinted with super rare foiling. They still had the secret rare text for their name, but they just don't have the secret rare foiling. These cards hold pretty much double the value in premium. So if Insect Queen is like 10 bucks on TCG Player, you'll find the misprinted version for around $20 to $30. The super rare misprints are not really that crazy rare, like you'll be able to find them with just a simple Google search, but I do think that they are worth mentioning because it's a really cool variant, and I collect both versions in my promo binder. The next misprint that I want to talk about is the gold name misprint. So basically what this is it affects two cards in the TCG, that is Trihorn Dragon as well as Gaia the Dragon Champion. Basically the card usually comes with rainbow print or like a rainbowy text name. This time it was misprinted with gold letters, aka ultra rare for the name, and it still has the same secret rare foiling. So for this misprint, the price range is completely different between Trihorn Dragon as well as Gaia the the Dragon Champion. So Guy the Dragon Champion has two versions, a regular secret rare and a reverse foil secret rare. Both of them can come in ultra rare. Trihorn Dragon, we've only seen reverse foil come in ultra rare. Trihorn Dragon is dumb rare. It's rare enough to fetch like $2,000 for a near mint copy, while Guy the Dragon Champion is like $50. That should tell you the difference in rarity. I'm not sure why there's a huge discrepancy between the print runs of the two cards, but for whatever reason, Trihorn Dragon is way short printed. It's arguably one of the rarest misprints in the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. While we're on the topic of name misprints, let me bring up a really cool one. This is Dragon Ice from Gladiator's Assault. Dragon Ice had a special misprint in the booster box run of Gladiator's Assault. So Gladiator's Assault is one of the few sets that had first edition blisters as well as first edition booster boxes. Dragon Ice had a misprint where it was stamped with Super Viacroid something, like it's a really long name. It's another secret rare from that set. It was just basically placed on Dragon Ice instead, and the misprinted name Dragon Ice only comes out of the booster boxes. The corrected Dragon Ice comes out of the blister cases. I can pretty much confirm this as I've seen and pulled them both myself from the booster boxes as well as the cases. So like I said earlier, this misprint is exclusive to the booster boxes, so that makes it way more expensive than the regular Dragon Ice. The regular Dragon Ice is probably like $30-40. The misprinted one can go all the way up to $400-500 if it's a truly mint copy. Another name misprint that is really cool, it comes out of the same set, is the ghost rare that comes out of Gladiator's Assault, and that is Elemental Hero Chaos Neos. This card was misprinted with Rainbow Dragon in the name. Again, I have no idea why this happened, but this is pretty common for that time period, and you'll see what I mean as this video keeps going. At that time, there was a lot of name issues, so Chaos Neos also got misprinted, and this is the ghost rare that can be pulled from the booster boxes. Every single ghost rare that comes out of Gladiator's Assault booster boxes will always have the misprinted Rainbow Dragon text. The corrected version comes out of the blister cases. This is why the Elemental Hero Chaos Neos misprint card is not really that expensive compared to another card that I'm going to be mentioning later on. However, in terms of price discrepancy, the regular Chaos Neos goes for like $300-400. The misprinted one goes for around $1,000. The next misprint that I want to talk about is again right along in that time period with Gladiator's Assault Tactical Evolution, and that is the premium pack release. The wrong name misprint affects the Black Magic Ritual from Premium Pack 1, and this was stamped with the wrong name Marshmallow. Marshmallow is another secret rare from Premium Pack 1. However, the rarity for this misprint is actually quite substantial because a regular Black Magic Ritual card is like $2, and then the misprint is like $300-400 in near mint condition, and is arguably one of the cooler misprints in terms of the wrong names, just because it affects two Yugi cards. I think that's a pretty cool combination to have. Now, the next and the last wrong name error misprint that I want to talk about in this video is one that doesn't actually come from this time period, and it only appeared in the European release of certain cards. So Dark Beginning 1 was a set that was released in CT02 or the 2005 collector tins. In this release, there was a special wave in Europe where there was a misprinted DB1 wrong name. So what happened was Dark Beginning 1 rares would be stamped with Dark Beginning 2 rares, and this was like kind of a recurring issue where every single Magician of Faith DB1 has a Sangan stamped in there, which is such a cool misprint, right? Like, you have two of the most iconic cards from GOAT format combined into one, Magician of Faith and Sangan. Like, that is so cool in my opinion. However, it does not affect every single tin from Europe. I made that discovery when I tried to open them myself in this video here. I thought the whole print run was like this, but unfortunately it was not. But what I do know and can confirm is that only European collector tins have these cards. The premium on these is substantial. Again, Magician of Faith DB1 regular card is probably like $2. Rare misprint with Sangan in the name is like $100. It's just really huge, and in my opinion they're actually quite underrated in near mint condition. I don't really see them pop up that often. I usually pay a big premium when somebody pulls them from the tin. Again, it doesn't happen very often, so I highly recommend you try to check these off your collection list if you collect misprints. So wrapping up the wrong names, I want to move on to one really unique misprint, and that only happened to really one card. That is the Goblin Attack Force wrong attribute sign. So there was a small run of Pharaoh's Servant Unlimited booster boxes that seeded Goblin Attack Force with the wrong attribute sign. So instead of it having Earth as the attribute sign, it had literally a level star there. So this is a complete printing defect from like the file format itself, and it only affects unlimited Goblin Attack Forces. I have no idea why this happened or how it can possibly happen, but it's incredibly cool and it's very hard to find in like super mint condition. It's not very expensive though. I'd probably say an unlimited Goblin Attack Force is like $5. This one would probably be like $35-$40. It's a big jump, but it's not like insane. The next type of misprint I want to talk about is the ones that don't have a name and don't have an imprint. Now this happened multiple times in a lot of different sets, but I've only seen one-offs. The one where I saw repetitive no names where it's like really rare, but there is a handful of them where like you can actually keep track of pricing is, first of all, LOB first edition no name no imprint rares. So this includes things like Pot of Greed, Aquamadur, a lot of the really cool LOB cards. All of these had variants where there was no name no imprint, so there's literally a blank text box at the top. This also affected two cards from Strike of Neos, at least two cards that I've seen. I can't imagine that there aren't any others, but I've only seen these two cards get pulled. Like they literally got pulled from a box I sold the buyer, and that is Twister and Spiral Serpent. I ended up rebuying Spiral Serpent from him, but basically these two as ultimate rares had versions where there was no name no imprint, but I figured that there would be more ultis like that, but I haven't really seen any in the wild. There's also the Twister on eBay, which I'll link in the description below if you want to add it to your collection. Another really cool misprint that repeated a lot is a card called Maximum 6 from Light of Destruction. So this card, for some reason, if you pull this card from Twilight Edition, it would have the ultra rare name with no foiling whatsoever. This card is technically supposed to be an ultimate rare. However, it does not have the ulti stamp at all. Like it's just not existent. The card looks literally like a common with a gold name. It's a super cool misprint. I've only seen Maximum 6 get affected by this, and it only affects, like I said, Light of Destruction Unlimited because it comes out of the special editions. This one has like an okay premium. I think there's one on eBay for like $35. I'll link it in the description and the top comments so you guys can pick it up if you want. But I think it's a really badass misprint. It's one of the few cards in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game that has the gold text while the rest of the card is a common. Now the next misprint I want to talk about is misprints that are extremely rare, but I don't like them at all because you can barely see them. And that is when they infuse one monster onto another. And this happened in 4 different instances that we can confirm and we've seen over and over again. The first one is Mahavilo being infused with like a little bit of inking from Garnecia Elephantis. I'll throw up a picture here, but if you look at the top right of the card, you'll be able to see that there's the Garnecia Elephantis tracing at the top there. I'm not really a big fan of these because you have to pull out that meme like from Spy Kids where you have like a bunch of little magnifying glasses to see it. Some people really like it and it adds a huge premium the more popular the card is. And what I mean by that is like the other cards in this set have a much bigger premium. So for example, Called by the Grave has also a Jinzo misprint in like the skull. You'll be able to see it. MST has Suijin kind of like hovering in the background. And then the most popular one and the most expensive one by far is what's called Jinzo Jar, and that is Morphing Jar with a hint of Jinzo at the top. Again, you have to pull out the meme. You have to start like looking at it in certain lights. I'm not a big fan of misprints like this. I like to be able to like just literally look at it from far away and be able to tell you, oh, this is a misprint. Some people really like it, and in terms of things like Morphing Jar, a regular Morphing Jar near mint is like $50, $100, $2,000. A misprinted one goes for like $3,000. So it's quite a bit. Like there's a huge discrepancy when it gets to really popular cards, but I don't really like any of them. I would not recommend them personally. Like I don't really like cards that are not obviously misprinted. Now what is obviously misprinted is a card that is, in my opinion, the rarest set card in the whole game, and that is Rainbow Dragon Effect misprint. So this card is arguably the hardest card to pull, and the reason is because, well, first of all, I covered it in this video here. I showed you guys the stats of how to pull this card, stuff like that, but basically it only comes out of the first wave of 2006 tins, and this tin is like $300-$400. There's only one tactical evolution pack in there, and that's the only place where you can pull the Rainbow Dragon Effect misprint Ghost. The raw copy of this card in PSA 3 sold for $1,000, bro. That card was beat. A regular Nearman copy goes easily for $5,000. This card is by far the most expensive set card in raw form. I think it really rivals things like LOB first edition, which is really remarkable to say. However, it is a niche product, so obviously it's not going to be as popular as LOB first edition Blue Eyes. But in my opinion, I think it's one of the coolest cards in the whole game. It's basically misprinted with a picture of Elemental Hero Chaos Neos instead of Rainbow Dragon. Like, how cool is that? And it's a ghost rare, and you know how rare it is to pull. Really, really badass. One of the coolest cards in the game for sure. All right, so winding down to the last two cards I want to talk about. The first one is a special wave of Retro Pack 2 Ultra Rares that had been misprinted as secret rares. They're not only misprinted as secret rares. So what I mean by this is this. So usually Jinzo, when you pull it out of Retro Pack 2, it's an ultra rare. This specific misprint of these cards had the cards come as secret rares. But not only that, they're missing the name and they're missing the Eye of Anubis, but they're properly cut. It's not like they came out of like a sheet or something like that where it was like kind of not factory issue. Like, they definitely have the right corners and everything. They were definitely pulled from packs, but for some reason those cards had secret rare foiling. That is so cool in my opinion, because you're getting a rarity upgrade here when it was never supposed to happen. Jinzo is supposed to be an ultra rare. There are two other ultra rares that we have seen as secret rares. The first one is United We Stand. That one also is usually an ultra rare. It came as a secret. There's also a mirror wall, or an alleged mirror wall. I've never seen pictures of it, but that card also apparently exists as a secret rare variant. All three of them also do not have the name in the text box. This one is ridiculously expensive. I believe that Jinzo sold for like $4,000 to $5,000. You know, a regular retro pack one Jinzo is like $50. So it's a huge price discrepancy. All right, last but not least, we have another super cool misprint, very much like the retro pack 2 one that I mentioned, where a card is literally getting a rarity bump. This one, however, is a lot more cool because this is actually a complete card. It's just upgraded to ultra rare. What I'm talking about here is the CP6 ultra rare variant. So usually in champion pack there is one ultra rare and then 4 super rares, okay? And usually CP cards are probably the most popular high rarity, max rarity cards in GOAT format. Like, it doesn't matter if there's like ultis, ghosts that come afterwards. People really love champion pack as the max rarity. And then you add in the fact that these are also misprinted as ultra rares instead of super rares. So you are adding so much identity to these cards. This misprint only affects CP6. I have seen maximum like 10 copies of each card. Champion pack is some of the rarest cards in the game. It's the most playable cards in the game, and a lot of people love these misprints. In terms of pricing, I do know that one of the ultra rares recently went up in some of the Facebook groups, and instantly there was comments of like 3K, 5K public offers in the comment section. That is remarkable for these cards, right? Like, most of them are like $200-300 at best, and the fact that they're able to jump to $5,000, that tells you just how rare they are. They are absolutely fantastic pieces. I would argue that they are some of the rarest misprints where the card is not deformed. I really like misprints where the card, like, it doesn't look like there's something wrong with it. It just looks like a regular card, but something is different about it. And I think that this is pretty much the epitome of this. I think this, Rainbow Dragon wrong image, Goblin Attack Force wrong attribute sign, reverse foils, these are like misprints, but they are so hidden in plain sight. I think it's such a cool aspect, and I think CP6 Ultras are like the coolest of all misprints. I really wish I could own them for my own collection, but I'm not at that pay grade, bro. Like, those things are dumb expensive. I believe the most expensive ones are the Phoenix Wing Blast, because I know that that one is a very popular GOAT card. And then you have the Old Vindictive Magician. That card is also dumb rare. There's Fearmonger, also an ultra rare, and then last but not least is Blaze Accelerator. I don't even want to imagine the prices on those. But yeah, like, every single card is a nice hitter. Every single card is very cool and very usable in older formats. CP6 is just amazing. Congratulations to anybody who owns those cards. They are absolutely fantastic. But that is pretty much it. That is every single repetitive misprint that happened in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. There are some other ones like the Divine Attribute Sign for like the recent Legendary Collection, but like, the reason I don't include those is because there's more misprints than there are corrected ones. It's not that cool to me. I don't really think things like that are that awesome. Pro promos are just not that nice. I don't like misprints on promos. I like misprints on set cards, so I just didn't include those, but I'm pretty sure I covered everything else. If you think I missed something, comment it down below. I'll pin your comment and I'll add it to my own so that we can keep track together. Thanks for watching, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys want to support the channel, hit the like button, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Go to strictlysealed.com, support your boy. I'll see you in the next one. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you learned something. Peace.